Good morning, everyone. On behalf of DAM Capital, I would like to welcome you to Kalpataru Power Transmission and JMC Projects Q4 FY21 earnings call. The management today is being represented by Mr. Manish Mohnot, Managing Director and CEO, Mr. Amit Uplenchwar, Director of Group Strategy and Subsidiary Operations, Mr. Ram Patodia, President Finance and CFO, and Mr. S.K. Tripathi, Managing Director and CEO, JMC Projects. I'll now hand over the call to Mr. Manish Mohnot for his opening remarks, post which we'll open up the floor for Q&A. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Bhumika. Welcome, everyone, and very good day to all of you. I trust each of you and your families are well and safe. I'm thankful to you for attending this earnings calls of KPTL and JMC. The year 2021 was a remarkable year for KPTL, despite a challenging business environment laden with pandemic and volatility in commodity prices. KPTL and group companies have delivered a resilient performance with highest ever consolidated revenue, profitability and order book for the year 2021. Our consolidated net debt as on March 21 is at the lowest level in the recent past. Despite the pandemic, we were successful in closing transactions of Alipurduar and Jhajjar transmission assets. Simultaneously, we have scaled up the international business at KPTL and JMC and have entered 5 new countries, including establishing local presence in Brazil. We now have global footprint in 62 countries. Additionally, we have made considerable progress on restructuring of road BOT assets. Before I move into details of our financial and operational performance, I will share a quick update on key strategic initiatives, particularly related to our long-term assets and subsidiaries. We have received major approvals pertaining to the deal of Kohima-Mariami transmission asset and expect the transaction to close by end of June 21, this quarter itself. We are at advanced stage of restructuring for Kurukshetra and Wainganga road BOT assets and expect the process to get completed by end of June 21, again this quarter itself. We received active interest from large investors for our Vidyanchal road BOT asset and expect their sale to be completed in financial year 22. We expect to have a non-binding offer in the next few months for this asset also. JMC has reported highest ever order inflows and order book in financial year 21. JMC entered into 2 new countries last year and have won a large international order in Ethiopia, which was declared yesterday. JMC will continue to leverage KPTL's strengths to gain strong foothold in international market and will continue to reinforce its leadership position in the focused businesses in India. We completed the acquisition of Fasttel in Brazil in April 21 with an opening order book of 670 crores. Brazil is one of the largest T&D market and we're confident to make a strong presence there in the next few years. Our Sweden subsidiary Linje Montage has reported strong numbers with revenue growth of 84% in financial 21 and 100 bps improvement in EBITDA margins. Since our acquisition in 2019, we have scaled up Linje Montage business with 2-fold growth in revenues and 3 times investment in profitability. We completed sale of 35% of total units on our Indore real estate project. Due to COVID, sales was affected in the last quarter. However, we expect the balance units to be sold in the next 12 to 18 months. In case of Sri Shubham Logistics, we're getting good interest from large active players and PE funds, given the improvement in performance. We expect some concrete output during the current year. All these steps evidently demonstrates a clear focus to improve the core EPC business and build a strong financial position to invest in future growth. Additionally, we put a lot of efforts on strengthening our organization by building a strong leadership team. We continue to be at the forefront of investing in digital technology and automation to bring efficiency in every sphere of our operations. Coming now to the financial performance, first at KPTL consolidated level. Consolidated revenue for quarter 4 21 grew by 16% on back of strong execution in T&D, B&F, water and urban infra business. For full year 21, our consolidated revenues have reached at a record level of 12,949 crores. With a YoY growth of 2%. We have sustained double EBITDA margin of 10.9% in Q4 and 11.4% for the full year on a consolidated basis. Our EBITDA margins were impacted due to commodity price and COVID-related costs, the details of which will come later on. However, our consistent focus on cost has helped to limit the fall in margins. Our exceptional item for 21 is in relation to divestment of Alipurduar and Jhajjar transmission assets. PBT after exceptional items grew by 199% in Q4 and 46% for the full year. PAT for the full year has improved by 70% to 662 crores. Our consolidated net debt is one of the lowest in recent past at 2,300 crores, which is a decline of 1,154 crores compared to last year. Our financial year 21 was one of the best year in terms of order inflows. We have received record orders of 16,359 crores in 21, with year-end order book of 27,900 crores, and additionally L1 position of around 2,300 crores at a consolidated level. Now the numbers at a standalone level, KPTL standalone, our revenue grew to 2,337 crores for Q4, largely on back of good performance in T&D. For full year 21, revenue declined marginally to 7,671 crores due to disruptions caused by COVID pandemic and lower dispatches due to container availability. For full year 21, T&D revenues including Linje Muntaj grew by around 12%, oil and gas and railways declined by 14%, and railways declined by 10%. We continue to maintain double EBITDA margin of 10.4% in Q4 and 10.5% for full year 21. PAT for Q4 has increased by 21% to 130 crores and for full year has improved by 33% to 615 crores. Our net debt is at 776 crores adjusted for interest-free loan received towards sale of ATL. Our finance cost as a percentage of sale is at 1.4% for 21, well below the guided range of 1.5%. Our order inflows for KPTL standalone was at 8,443 crores with year-end order book of 13,890 crores. Our L1 as on date is around 1,300 crores. JMC standalone, we have recorded highest ever quarterly revenue of 1,349 crores, a growth of 44% compared to Q4 last year. Our growth has been driven by robust execution in B&F, water and urban infra business. Our full year revenue reached 3,689 crores with a marginal decline of 1% compared to last year, even with that first quarter being written off due to COVID. We have scaled back to double-digit EBITDA margin of 10% in Q4, given persistent effort to control costs. Our full year EBITDA margin declined to 9% due to COVID-related expenses and rise in material prices. PBT grew by 67% in Q4 to 80 crores. Full year PBT was 102 crores. Our PAT improved to 60 crores compared to a loss of 34 crores in Q4 last year. Net debt at JMC is lowest level in past few years of 512 crores at the end of March 21. Focused efforts on collection and project closure has led to improvement in working capital. JMC received record order inflows of 7,900 crores in 21, taking its year-end order book to 14,000 crores at the end of March 21. During the current year, JMC received orders of 3,034 crores, including order of 2,204 crores declared yesterday. Our L1 at JMC as on date is around 1,000 crores. In our road BOOT projects, average daily revenue was 53.4 lakhs per day. Toll collections in Kurukshetra road project was affected due to farmers' agitation. In Q4, we made an additional investment of 45 crores in our road projects, taking the total investment to 866 crores at the end of March 21. At Shubham Logistics, revenue in 21 was 149 crores, a growth of 13% with EBITDA of 46 crores and PAT of 5 crores for the entire year. As guided earlier, we have achieved profitability for full year. We expect SSL to improve its profitability going forward. Coming to guidance for year 22, our well-diversified current order book provides good visibility for growth in 22. We expect KPTL standalone revenue to grow in the range of 10 to 15% and JMC revenue to grow by 15 to 20%. Our consolidated revenue should be growing by more than 15% for year 22. This is with the belief that, the COVID pandemic will not continue to be more disruptive than what it is today. Given the uncertain environment and emergence of second COVID wave, it will be difficult to provide for any order inflow guidance. However, it will be our endeavor to match order inflows at the same level as financial year 2021. We will be happy to provide this guidance by the end of Q1 once we have a lot more clarity in the external environment. KPTL and JMC will target to maintain double-digit EBITDA margin of 10.5%. We are actively working to reduce our debt at both standalone and consolidated level. We remain committed to have significantly lower debt and be almost a debt-free company at KPTL standalone level by the mid of 21 itself. We anticipate near-term challenges in the business environment given the emergence of second wave of COVID. However, we are confident that our capabilities, proximity to our clients, our experienced team and sheer commitment of employees will enable us to navigate the storm. With that, we can open up the call for questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Parikshit Kanpal from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Hi, good morning, and congratulations on good set of numbers. My first question is on the order book. So, if we last year, so for order backlog of KPTL has not been removed, so large part of order book growth and the combined entities coming from JMC and JMC foray into international market. So, if you are still guiding for a 10% growth despite saying that the orders will largely remain muted YOY, then flows will remain muted YOY. So what gives you this confidence that we will be able to do 10% growth in KPTL? And also if you can highlight on for both the companies, how's the order pipeline looking right now? So you can touch upon that.
Sure. So if you look at the order inflow growth in the previous year, right, and when we speak of KPTL standalone, we also include Linje Muntal because that's a transmission business. You know, if you look at 19-20, our entire order inflow was 6,500 odd crores, and 2021 is at 8,500 odd crores. So if you look at it today, where we are closer to 14,000 crores, and to grow at 10%, you know, we're talking of a 8,500 crore kind of number. Our typical order book is 18 to 21 months. So from that perspective, growing at 10 to 12% should not be a challenge with visibility on the order book. Second, I think we see a lot of orders coming into different segments of the business. You know, transmission line international, I think we are focused a lot more. Railways, we are L1 in 2 large orders, closer to 900 crores. One of them was at JMC, which got declared, and one at KPTL. Oil and gas, we bid for a lot of tenders. The issue is the delay, right? Suddenly, April, May, we've not seen any movement in tenders for reasons known to all of us. So our problem is that, given that, we're not sure that whether, you know, things would start opening up at the client end even in June or July, or we don't know that. But, you know, given last year, April, May, June last year was similar, but still we were able to, catch up and build the entire order book in 9 months. So with visibility in the sectors, with our reach, and with our capability to execute, I think we should be comfortable on growth, and I think we should be at least targeting more than what we've got in the current year. The precise number is difficult just because of the delays at the client side.
Okay. So any impact on the execution because of, so if you can just also touch upon the labor availability at the site, and are you seeing any migration happening there? So both for JMC and KPTL, if you can touch upon that. So I'll give my second question.
So, you know, while the disruption has been very different this time as compared to what we saw in the previous year, but the good part is we've not seen many labor disruptions at the site. People continue to stay at site, unlike last time where the people moved back, because people have been taken care. So majority of our sites are operational, but it gets impacted because of the restrictions at the state level. Right? There are some restrictions at Karnataka, some at Tamil Nadu, some at Maharashtra, but labor has not moved out. Confident as of today, we have more than 90% of the laborers which we had at the end of March, both at KPTL and JMC. So that's not a challenge as of today.
Okay. This last question on the raw material side, if you can quantify the impact of raw material you would have taken during this quarter, impact on margins, and also on your entire order inflows. Is there anything which is unhedged or any one-off project where between the L1 and LOA there has been a significant time lag and which could result in a big hit going ahead? So if you can just provide on your forward positions, if there could be one-offs or one-time write-offs which may come in because of sudden volatility in the raw material prices.
So I think the volatility in commodity prices obviously has caught us completely off guard, and I'll be very honest about it that this is something which none of us expected. While we speak, we have built a huge CTC provision in Q4 already in KPTL and JMC. So we have done a huge CTC provision for the increase in raw materials, and that's why EBITDA margins have slightly dropped in Q4. It's difficult for us to estimate that what could be the impact, but we believe that even at current levels of raw material, we should still be at double-digit margins. Beyond this, you know, if it continues to grow like this, 10-15% every month, then we'll have to recast our margins and we'll come back to you at the end of Q1. But even as of today, we believe a double-digit margin should not be a challenge for us.
What was the provision which you took this quarter on the cost?
So CTC provisioning across all projects was in the range of 150 crores at a consolidated level.
Okay. Thank you. That's all from my side. I'll join the
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bhavin Mithani from SBI Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity. Congratulations for good set of numbers.
Good morning, Bhavin.
Good morning, Manish. Continuing on the previous question, so on the input cost inflation, it would be useful if you could help us understand, breaking up KPTL and JMC separately, percentage of projects which have fixed price contracts, percentage of projects which have variable price, and how are we able to pass on the inflation. Also, we have seen some cases, peer companies, where they have bid for projects. The order came in 3-6 months after that, and that has resulted in losses. So are we seeing any of such situation? So it will be useful to understand on the input cost inflation in detail.
Sure. So, Bhavin, let me just divide this both for KPTL and JMC. So if you look at KPTL's order book today, right, approximately 60% of our order book is fixed in nature, 40% is variable, where there's a price variation clauses. And to that extent, I think we have covered at least on the commodity prices. If you look at the JMC order book, more than 90% of the order book has a price variation clause or has free supply of material from clients. So there's minimal impact coming out of this. There's hardly 10% which would have an impact, which is primarily the international projects. Now, going to the second question that, what is it? Do we have any surprises? Yes, we also had contracts which we won last year, for which we have done the CTC provisioning already on steel, on aluminum and copper. A lot of our exposure on aluminum, copper, FX, we have hedged. Right? We're not completely open on that. But on steel, we cannot hedge, and that's an impact which is visible. Do we have any surprises? We've built in some provisions already in our costing, but if this continues the way it is, a dent could be there, but we have provisions which gives us a confidence that we should still be at double-digit margin. So in terms of the biggest impact to us would come only from steel, not as much from the other commodities, and that's something which we are cautiously watching for JMC, for KPTL. For JMC, even that impact will be minimal because it's a pass-through to a great extent. But for KPTL, that's the biggest impact. If you were to quantify it, we approximately have, let's say, 180,000 tons of steel orders in hand, and we would have inventory of 30,000-40,000 tons already at our plant. So 120,000-130,000 tons, even if you want to put a number to it, you could put a number to it. But as of today, looks like even with that, we should be able to take care of our double-digit margins.
Sure, that's useful. The second thing is on the working capital. We did see working capital of KPTL in colors on that. And secondly, the customer advances that we have, what percentage is interest bearing and what percentage is interest free?
So if you actually look at our customer advances as of now, right, and since you raised this question, right, it is reduced by closer to 400 crores compared to where we were in the previous year. So consciously during the current year, and I said this at the last time also, we have stayed away from customer advances because the interest rates are very, very high. That's one. Second, if more than 50% of our customer advances are interest bearing, and interest ranges from 10 to 12% depending from client to client. Our advance from customer is closer to 900 crores, and more than 50% would be from domestic, which would have a interest cost which is 10 to 12%.
And about the working capital increase that we have seen, how should one expect it going forward?
So working capital increase for the current year, if you really look at it, has come from two components. Right? One is our customer advances, which we have reduced significantly. And second is the creditor payments outflows, which is much higher than what we had seen in the previous year. So that was a conscious call of the management that, whatever is outstanding should be paid at the earliest given the current environment of COVID. So if you look at it, these were the two things which impacted. Our debtor days are at similar levels. So if I have to give you a number, third quarter 21, our debtor days were 182, now we're at 178. Right? Inventory days have slightly come down. So net working capital days, the increase of 14 days, 71 to 85 is primarily driven by these two components, which is reduction in customer advances and increased payments to trade creditors. I believe we should come back to the 75-80 levels by the end of the current year.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the question.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Renu Baid from IIFL. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Just wanted to understand one thing back on the margin side, given that even we had 1,000 crores plus of orders from TBCB projects. So have just reiterated the entire provisions related to the gap up on the costing side for steel and other materials have been fully provided for, or there are some cushion for under recoveries yet as we speak today in May?
So Renu, the CTC provisioning as on 31st March has been fully done. Beyond that, volatility obviously is inbuilt in the costing to a certain extent. But if this volatility continues or if the increase in price continues like the way it is, then we might not be provided even till the end of the project. But a significant portion, right? A significant portion of the movement between the time we had bid to 31st March has been provided in our books of accounts already.
And what is the value of this provision in Kalpataru's books? You mentioned consol is 150 crores in 4Q. For KPTL standalone, what is the value?
Approximately 140 crores out of the 150 is at KPTL standalone.
Okay. So basically, if broadly we look at that, knocking off this impact that we see in the next year, we're actually guiding for double-digit margins. So broadly, how are we looking at the profitability in some of the non-T&D business portfolio for us, both in railway as well as oil and gas? How are we progressing on that side? And subsequently, as we are also looking at international T&D orders, to what extent are we seeing the mix of supplies being met through domestic steel supplies or they are being met through international, because there is a steep difference between the prices today in domestic and international steel prices. If you can help us get some perspective on that side.
Sure. So let me first answer the first question, right? Our margins on oil and gas and railways. So our margins on oil and gas has reached double digit. For the last full year, they were at double digit. They're more in the range of 10 to 12%, and they've delivered margins which was budgeted, and I believe they'll continue to be doing that for the next year also. Railways margin was slightly impacted, one because of the reduction in revenues as well as because of all the disruptions. So our railway margins was at levels of 5 to 6% at a PBT level, right? These are numbers I'm giving you at a PBT level and not necessarily at a EBITDA level. Railways margins, we do not see significant improvement in the current year also, given that there's an order book which is historical order book and needs to be delivered. But they have good order books, so growth there will not be a challenge, because as of now, that's the only division which has order book which is beyond 2 years. On your second question, international versus domestic, see, our focus on the international business is a lot more on EPC projects, right? And on EPC projects, the steel component impact is very, very minimal. So typically, international EPC projects, steel would be, the tower component would be not more than 20-25% of the entire project. And in that, if you look at the steel component, it will further go down. So to us, that is minimal impact, right? And the focus continues to be on the international projects, because at the current levels, obviously, we are budgeting with the increased price in steel. So today, if we are budgeting for projects or if we are bidding for projects, we expect steel to go up, and we are including that in our costing. So whatever we have bid for the last 3 months or what we continue to bid, I hope that we don't have a challenge in the steel prices there. But as of now, I think we believe that with the current levels of steel, if we start bidding from now, we should not have challenges on maintaining our margins.
Got it. And simultaneously, when we look at business growth, broadly T&D orders have come through, but execution has still been fairly weak. So segment-wise, across the core portfolio, how do we look at the execution mapping up, especially growth coming in the oil and gas, rail, as well as the core T&D business for us?
So, our significant thing, let me divide this question into two. One is our order book inflow for the year. So if you look at our order book inflow for the year, 75% of the order book came in TL business, right, including LNG. So there's 45% TLI, 23% TLD, and 7% LNG. So around 75% of our order inflow in the current year came from the TL business, and the balance was railways and pipeline, 13%. From an execution perspective, if you look at it, right, if you look at the broad numbers from execution perspective, the TL business, right, which includes Linje Montage, also grew by around 11% for the year. Last year they did around 5,400 crores. This year they did 6,000 crores. Our railway and oil and gas business degrew right? Primarily because they are very labor intensive, right? First 4-5 months they had huge issues because they don't have as much supply as TL business has. And TL business, you can catch up on supply easily by making the plant run at double shifts and being bought out and all of that. But the railway and oil and gas business degrew by 12% in the current year. So previous year, significant growth, the entire growth came from T&D, and even next year, our own assessment is that TL business will continue to grow at the range of 8 to 10%, while oil and gas and railways would be in the range of 10 to 12%.
Sure. Right. And now looking at the group level, so how are we now that the JMC projects also have started to see restructuring as well as some asset sale movement there? So how should we look at the broad framework of both these entities in the group structure? Any progress on that side or roadmap in terms of timelines that you have in your mind?
No, I don't think we still have clarity on that in any form. That's a call which the senior management has to take. Our focus right now is to make sure that operationally both the companies start doing very well, reduce the capital employed, reduce the debt, come back to that high double-digit EBITDA numbers, and focus on utilizing the skills and strength of KPTL so that JMC can also grow at a much faster pace. Right now the focus is on operational profitability and growth improvement for both the companies.
Sure. Thanks much, sir. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bharat Sheth from Quest Investment. Please go ahead.
Hi, good morning, Manish ji and Tripathi ji. Congratulations on good set of number in challenging time.
Good morning, Bharat bhai.
Good morning, Bharat bhai. Good morning.
Sir, I have a question on this JMC. With new order and everything, currently our order book is with L1 is in around 18,000 crore. So from say medium term perspective, 3 year, can we double the JMC turnover, and which segment vertical will drive that, and that additional growth will be margin accretive or dilutive looking at the commodity cycle?
Yeah, Kitty?
Yeah. So, Bharat bhai, good morning. It's a good question. With the order book, 18,000 crore, we are definitely looking at around 20% growth every year. So within 3 to 4 years, we should be doubling our number. That is getting crystallized. So coming to the question of margin, yes, this 18,000 crore, the drivers in the growth will be the B&F, water and international.
Okay.
B&F has been historically has a good margin. Water is definitely where our margins are going to improve, and international. So subject to how the COVID and the commodity prices pan out, the 2 key businesses which will drive the growth, they have definitely a potential for the higher margin.
Okay.
But we have to at the same time be cautious on the commodity pricing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sir, I mean, what exactly JMC has done to strengthen its process, team, and balance it to take such kind of a growth? And second thing, on how do we see the trend of, interest as a percentage to sales, going ahead?
So that's right. So we have been, I think, last 1 year during COVID period, and even before that, the process strengthening has been on a full drive. And in last 1 year, a lot of management bandwidth has been added at a senior level.
Okay.
So all divisions have been carved out separately. Number of people have been inducted. International division had been separated out. So we are very cautious this time that with the growth, there is adequate management bandwidth, right?
Okay.
At the same time, on the processes side, we have synergized our processes with the KPTL, the way they have been working. And I think these two, the management addition with last year, as well as the focus on the processes, we are sure that we will be able to handle the growth. The second, on the interest part, our international projects, they have the decent advances. as well as last 1 year, we have squeezed every corner on the working capital, customer outstanding, and that has, if you look at our interest cost, has even marginally come down from the last year. Okay. And going forward, I see further improvement in the interest rate. So we may be lower by another 100 basis point or so going forward.
Okay. So only a last question, on the tax rate, in JMC this year is around 30%. So FY22, what level? And even, sir, for Manishji, for KPTL also Q4, we have seen a very high effective tax rate.
No, so Bharat, the tax rate is driven by a combination of some international projects, where typically the tax rates are higher than what it is in India now.
Correct.
And a lot of time those get inbuilt in the cost, right? Because till the last year we were different, right? India was among the highest, so we never had that issue. But today a lot of international countries have tax rates which are higher than what we pay in India, and that additional tax we have to pay in those countries. So with that, I think we normally have tax rates which is at least higher by 2 to 3%, because that's something which will continue to be based on the regulations of those countries.
Okay. So, and JMC, tax rate is around 30% for full year. So next year, how do we see?
It will be the same, Bharat Bhai. It will be in the same range.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. That's all. And if I have a question, I'll come back.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to ensure that the management is able to address questions from all participants, request you to please limit your questions to 2 per participant. If you have a follow-up question, you may rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Deepak Narnolia from Birla Sun Life Insurance. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hello. Sir, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for giving me opportunity, and good morning to you, sir. And congratulations on good set of numbers. I wanted to know one thing, sir, that I see that your order inflow for the year has grown up by 30%. Last year it was somewhere around 6,500 crores, and which has grown up to 8,500 crores this year. And this year sales is also muted with a 3% decline. But your order book has not grown up in that level. Like order book is only 5% up. So I was wondering if you have cancelled some order in the year or what?
No. So, to be precise, if you look at the revenue growth, right? So the revenue growth was 7,700, right? So if you look at from a differential perspective, right, your order increase is only around 1,000 crores. There could be a few hundred crores of orders which get changed because of, reduction in scope. So typically that's the nature of our business, right? There's not been any significant order cancellation after it's reached the order book. A few L1s got cancelled during the year. One L1 in a Middle East country of around $30 million got cancelled, but that was never taken into order. And there was some reduction in scope, right? So when you do a line, typically there's some reduction in scope, which would be in not even getting into beyond 100, which would be double-digit number crores. Otherwise, it should reconcile. What you need to also look at is this number includes the LNG order book also, Linje Montage also. So you need to add that also. Right? So if you reconcile that, you'll see that it would tally for a few, maybe 50, 70, 80 crores. That is basically reduction which could happen because of changes in scope, nothing beyond that.
Okay, Linje Montage is somewhere around 1,000 crores, no?
Yes.
And in 6,500 crores last year's order, that order is not there.
That order was much lower than compared to the current year. Much lower. There was, but it was much lower.
Okay. And sir, this year your 500 crores, 150 crores.
No, we are missing you. I can't hear what you're saying. Sorry, the line is not clear. I can't hear what you're saying, Deepak.
So what I'm saying that this year your total absolute tax is somewhere around 2,200 crores. So does it include the additional tax on your exceptional items? related to the gain on transmission assets?
Yes, it does. It does include the additional tax on the exceptional item also, both capital gain as well as the deferred tax asset created for the advance which we have got. So it includes tax on that also.
So if you exclude that, then tax is in the normalized range of somewhere around 27-28%, correct?
Yes, for sure. So I think we believe that tax rate would continue in the range of 27 to 28%.
And sir, next year growth you are talking about somewhere around 10 to 12%, including the TN and this non-TND business, correct?
So for the TLD business, the transmission business, I expect growth to be double digit.
So growth to be?
Double digit, 10 to 12%. And for the oil and gas and railways, which have not done so well in the previous year, I expect growth could be in the range of 15%.
And sir, I remember in the past, your growth guidance for TND was, you were not expecting any growth in TND business.
So the number which I gave you is for the TL business as a whole. You did not ask me for separate numbers. The TLD business growth is not been very high. Significant growth has come from TLI and international subsidiaries.
TND and TLD is separate of what we are saying?
Yes. You know, I gave you growth. I'll just explain this again. I gave you growth for TL business as a whole. If you divide this to TLD and TLI, I expect TLD business to grow only at the range of 5 to 7% for the current year.
Okay.
I expect TLI business to grow at the rate of 12 to 15%, and hence the average growth should be in the range of 10 to 12%.
Achha. So international will have a good growth, but domestic will have very muted growth, correct?
I'm still very, domestic growth would be inflation driven, not beyond that for me for the current year also.
And what's the progress in that, the road assets and SSL, the Shubham?
So on Shubham, we have appointed advisors. We're still expecting some, the final thing we're expecting maybe by June, July, we should have all the inputs coming in, post which we will take the final call what we need to do. As far as the road assets is concerned, we said earlier, 2 of the road assets, we are taking them to structuring with banks, which we expect should happen in the next 30 to 60 days. It should have been done by now, but last 30 days, unfortunately, there was disruption because of people working from home. One of the road assets, we're looking at some buyer who's keen to buy it, and that's also a discussion at advanced stage. We expect the non-binding offer in the next 30 to 60 days. And the fourth one, we'll look at it once the 3 are clear, because the fourth one still is not losing any cash.
Sorry to interrupt. I would request Mr. Nannolia to please rejoin the queue as we have participants waiting for their turn. Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ranjit Subramaniam from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Sir, if you can give some color on the revenue breakup for FY21. How much is TL domestic? How much is TL overseas, railways and oil and gas?
So I think I just gave that breakup. I'll repeat again. The total TL business, the details we'll have to take from the team, is around 6,000 crores. And the total infra business, which is railway and oil and gas, is around the balance around 1,700 odd crores. No, sorry, around 2,600. And okay, that's it. So if you look at total, because it includes consol. So TL business standalone is around 5,000 crores, and infra business, which is railways and oil and gas, is around 2,700 crores.
And this 2,700 crores is evenly divided between the both.
So railway is around 1,500 crores and oil and gas is around 1,200 crores.
Okay, and both this railway and oil and gas, you are confident of around 15% kind of growth given the low base this year?
Yes, and plus a reasonably good order book which is visible right now.
Okay, and Shubham had posted some loss this quarter. Is that something to worry about? How is the trend out there in Shubham?
No, I think at the operational level, if you look at the operational numbers, it did not have a loss. The loss primarily came in due to some provisioning because of a few receivables which were historical, and that was requirement because of NDS. So otherwise, we expect Shubham numbers to improve from here onward. Their targets for the next year is at least margins they would be doubling, if not increasing beyond that, at a PBT level.
And regarding the sale of your transmission assets, what is the current status, and will this net cash situation guidance of first half, is that something which we can really look forward, or you see some risk in that guidance also?
So as of now, we've received majority of the advances on our sale, which is planned to CLP. We had already signed a binding offer with them. Majority of the regulatory approvals have come. Majority of the banking approvals have also come. 2 or 3 approvals are pending, which our team expects should come in the next 2-3 weeks. The process of, the process have already started in terms of transferring the, asset to CLP. We're pretty confident that by June end, we should be able to complete the transaction because majority of the approvals have come as of today. And once that inflow comes in, we're pretty confident that we'll be closer to zero debt or negligible debt at a KPTL standalone level.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Rishikesh Oza from Robo Capital. Please go ahead. Mr. Oza, please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
you are, sir.
So, hi sir, good morning. You said you'll be selling one of your road assets, and could you please share the timeline for the sale of that asset?
So as I mentioned earlier, we're expecting it to happen in the current year, hopefully by Q2, Q3, but a non-binding offer might happen as early as maybe in the next 60 to 90 days.
Okay, great. And also you will be restructuring 2 assets, right? So, if you can give any number, how much will you save in finance cost after the sale and the restructuring together?
So unfortunately, the numbers are still confidential. I think we stick to our earlier guidance of saying that post the restructuring, the cash requirement from JMC to the road assets would come closer to zero. That's a commitment we had done, but unfortunately things got delayed. So once the restructuring happens and the divestment happens, we believe that at least for the next 5 years, there will be no cash infusion on the road assets.
Okay, got it. No problem. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Prem Khurana from Anand Rathi. Please go ahead. Mr. Khurana, please go ahead. Your line is unmuted.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, thank you for taking my question, sir. My question was on JMC. So, essentially, this year we've done exceedingly well in terms of new order additions. Of almost around 7,900 odd crore. Just if you could share your thoughts, as in, this kind of number has been made possible. If it is because of there's an improvement in throughput. Our success ratio has gone up, or there were more tenders in the pipeline, which is how we could benefit more. Why I want to understand this is essentially because you spoke about some kind of uncertainty in FY22 on order addition. So if it is as if FY21 was essentially because of your success ratio going up with the similar kind of number of tenders that you bid for, then there's a high chance that you would still be able to make good in FY22 even with fewer tenders. And has there been any change in the way we approach these tenders now, if it is as if the success ratio has gone up?
Yeah. So, this order book has been not by chance. It has been, the work has been going on this front from last couple of years, whether it is in terms of identifying the market, building the capability, identifying the customer, building the execution strategy, and then taking the job, right? So I will break it in 2 parts. On the domestic part, it has been basically the water side business, which we have been building from last 5 years. Of course, there has been a spectrum of opportunity along with the capability, so we decided to build on. Similarly, on the international side, we have been working from last 3 to 4 years based on the KPTL footprints in the various countries where we have worked on the projects, brought them the maturity, and hence they got included in the order book. And the B&F has been our traditional growth point where we have the capability and the market both. So to answer your question, it has been built in a strategic way, and going forward, at least these two new areas, the water as well as the international, there is a strategic plan and there is a visibility where the order book can be built, and we have the delivery capability. At the same time, when I'm saying this, there are certain sectors where we are cautious, and we will be cautious, but we will be looking for the right opportunity to jump on if they are available.
Sure. And so as I see it, I mean, when I look at the order inflows that you've been able to manage this year, I mean, FY21, almost 54% of these are B&F private, and surprisingly, B&F government is negligible. So is it a conscious decision to go a little slow on B&F government, or again, I mean, was by design, by chance only that, I mean, there were more orders on B&F private, which is where we could make it have more success on B&F private side. And if you could also give us the construct in terms of B&F private, will include what, residential or more of commercial this time around?
So, if you look at our historical order book mix, our B&F has been, so within the B&F, the private sector will be almost 70%. And that is basically primarily comes from our south operations, where we have built over last 15 years. And there, in spite of the COVID, we have seen the growth in the revenue, project launches, as well as the liquidity. And hence, we have gone and built a further order there. B&F, so this will be the B&F breakup. Government side, there has been a very intense competition, and we have taken a conscious call to keep away from there. As I said, we will be looking for the right opportunity there, and if that opportunity we think that is good enough and yielding to the good margin, then only we'll go there. Otherwise, we are not running after the government projects. So to answer your question, yes, it is by design and by conscious choice.
Thank you.
Yes.
The next question is from the line of Parikshit Kandpal from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so just a follow-up, sir, on this 140 crores of provisioning which you have done. So where is it reflecting? Because if I add it back above EBITDA, your margins will look at 15%. So if you can just clarify on that.
So it's reflected in the respective head. You know, some would come in material, some would come in erection, depending upon it's a provisional, whether it's for bought out or it's for raw material or it's for the. So it's reflected in the respective head where the cost includes. So it's primarily in material cost where it's already included.
But then on the top line of the standalone 2,300 crores, if 140 will be about 5%. So the EBITDA margin, adjusted EBITDA margin would have been about 15% during this quarter.
So we also had a lot of, closure of projects which happened in Q4, because of which a lot of provisions got released on all those projects which got closed. So if we had not provided that, definitely, but because of project closures, we got a lot of provisions which got released and that got adjusted against us. But if we had not provided, it would have been at a level of 13 to 14% for sure.
Okay. Just the last bit on the promoters' pledge reduction plan. So that reduction plan which was like given a few quarters back. So any update on that? Because I think by March we would have to reduce by 150 crores that promoters would have reduced against those pledges. So any guidance on that? Are we on track? How much has happened? And because even by next December we would have to reduce it by another 150 crores. So that was the plan. So any update on that?
Yeah. So I think, as far as the promoters' pledge is concerned, the promoters are targeted to reduce their pledge levels to around 40%. When we spoke, they were at around 58% of the holding was pledged. Right now, it's around 50%. From whatever we've been given to understand from the promoters, they're on track to make sure that by December, this reaches levels of closer to 40%.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Swarnil Maheshwari from Edelweiss. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hi, sir. Good morning. So just one question. On the real estate side, sir, so what's happening at the Indore the real estate project? I think we were expecting the OC very soon. So what is the total inventory left over there and total monetization that we expect from the Indore real estate project?
So, we had seen some sales in Q4. We had sold around 5 or 6 units in Q4, which we had informed at the call last time. So if you look at the total units which we have, including shops and all of that, we have around total 129 units. We have sold till date 46 units. Again, when I say sold, the cash flow is still not come for a lot of them because the cash flow is back-ended. We have, if you look at it from OC status, we have 5 towers out of which we have received OC for 2 of them. One of them is at the final stage, should come anytime. Actually, 3 of them. One of them is expected anytime and one might get delayed. Our total investment is around 390 crores in that project, and we believe that over the next 12 to 18 months, the entire project should get sold. Clearly, we see some disruption in the last 2 months because of this new wave of COVID pandemic. So last couple of months, we've not seen much sales at the project, and we would revisit, what is the kind of value we have in this project, maybe at Q1 or Q2.
Fair enough, sir. So out of those 46 units, what is the total cash flow we have received, if you have that handy? Otherwise, I can take that offhand also.
I do not have that handy. You might have to take offhand with the team, please.
No worries, sir. No worries. Right, sir. Thank you so much and wish you all the best, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Deepak Sardar from Sapphire Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, morning, Deepak.
Yeah, very good morning, and thank you for the opportunity. So just wanted to understand, you mentioned that on the road, at the JMC level, the road BOT project, so we'll be able to monetize some of the road asset by second quarter or third quarter, right?
One of them, not some, one.
One of them. And so what is our debt deleveraging target? Basically, how do we see our debt by FY22 and FY23? So how do we see our debt?
So, our debt target reduction at a console level, we are hoping to reduce our debt by anywhere in the range of 800 plus crores in the console level.
Mm-hmm.
Significant portion coming from the sale of KMTL project at KPTL and some portion coming from the road asset.
Mm-hmm.
Plus leveraging our existing balance sheet to make sure that we can further improve on our working capital. So on a console basis, we are targeting a reduction of closer to 800 crores of debt by 31st March 22.
By FY. And at the standalone level?
Standalone level, as I said, KPTL would go closer to negligible debt, and JMC debt reduction, they have done significantly well. So I don't see significant debt reduction at a standalone JMC level happening in the current year.
Mm-hmm.
Because with growth coming in, I think they will need further help from working capital perspective. So significant debt reduction would happen out of KPTL sale of asset itself.
So at the JMC level, 750 crores, what the current level?
Should continue at the same level. I don't see that reducing significantly.
Okay, understood. And sir, on the JMC level, so how do we see the margins in FY22?
SKD?
Yeah, they will be double digit range between 10 to 10.5.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's from me, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Sandeep Verma from Axis. Please go ahead.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
So basically, I wanted to know the current operational efficiency in GMC and KPTL because of the current COVID situation. So, and are you experiencing similar labor migration issue which we had faced in last financial year?
I think I've already responded to this question, but I'll respond again. You might have missed it. As of today, we've not seen huge labor migration happening. Labor continue to be at site. But yes, we've seen some disruption because of local shutdowns in a lot of states, right? Where because the material is not allowed and, the movement of people is stalled. But we've not seen labor exodus like the way we saw it last year.
Mm-hmm. So what would be the current operational efficiency, and at what level you are operating compared to Q4 level?
So it would be very difficult to give you a number because very different at different projects. So giving you a number is going to be difficult, but it's not as bad as what it was last year is something which I can say. But it is very different at different projects. So for example, if projects in Bombay, the operational efficiency could be as low as 20-30%. Whereas projects in South India, it would still be as high as 80-90%. And all our rural projects still is at 70, 80, 90, 100%. So it's very different at a project level. But as of today, we don't see huge impact coming because of this COVID as for the current quarter. A larger impact would come on, from containers availability and shipments. So that is still a challenge for us. So, and that would be a lot more at KPTL, and that's something which we are, very closely watching, because that could be a larger impact than the impact of labor exodus for the current quarter.
All right. And sir, what is the liquidity that the company is maintaining in order to avoid, avoid the situation if the COVID situation aggravates? So is the company maintaining sufficient liquidity? Yes.
So I think you can see from our numbers, our debt equity is at the lowest level in the history of both standalone and consol, and we have good available limits with banks which we can utilize. We have hardly utilized a lot of our limits. So I don't think we'll have any challenge on the liquidity front as far as KPTL or JMC or the consol group is concerned.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Abhijit Anand from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. I have a question for Manish, sir. So, ignoring all the COVID things that are happening, I want to have an understanding of over a 2-3 year perspective. What could be an ideal growth for KPTL and what could be the drivers for that?
So I just missed one question. I heard the last time of what would be an ideal growth, but the first part I missed. So growth numbers.
My question is like over the next 2-3 years perspective. What could be KPTL sales growth prospect?
So if from a KPTL perspective, we believe that the current year 21-22 in terms of growth, looking at a historic trend, would not be very, very exciting because we had some challenges on World Bank ban and we were not able to bid for a lot of international projects. And that's why we're targeting growth only at the level of 10 to 15%. From a long-term perspective, 3 to 5 years, we see huge opportunities on the following. We see our oil and gas business on the international side doing very well. As of today, they are pre-qualified in more than 10 to 11 countries, and that's an opportunity we will capitalize, which would get into revenue in 22, 23 and later on. We see Railways International again utilizing the skill set of transmission and growing on the international side in a big way, which would be a second big driver for growth. Third, some of our international subsidiaries, whether it is Linje Montage or Fasttel, we believe that the growth can be much higher than what we've even seen in the last 3 years. Transmission International, we had our challenges, which I said earlier. Hence, we were not able to bid for a lot of projects. We will be out of that challenge hopefully by October, right? Because that's the scheduled date. And then things should start improving there also. So from a 3-year perspective, growing in the range of 15% plus for KPTL, including the international subsidiaries, should not be a challenge as of today without compromising on EBITDA and by improving ROCE. So if you can see, our return on capital employed in the last 4-5 years has grown from 14 to 20%. And the target is to take that to levels of 25% by 2025. And that is all the entire team is working on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as this was the last question for today, I would now like to hand the conference over to Ms. Bhumika Nair for closing comments.
Yes, thank you very much, sir, for and the entire team for giving us an opportunity to host the call and answering all the queries. And I would like to thank all the participants as well for being on the call. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.